you know who your top 5 customers are that are likely to upgrade or maybe churn this week? Most teams don't, so it's okay if you don't. They waste a lot of hours trying to figure this out. And this week, we're talking about ways that you can find these customers in the data that you have, and you can stop guessing and stop reacting to things before it's too late. Hey everybody, welcome back to Marketplace Growth by Acoil. I'm joined by Kate this week, and we're talking about customer health scoring and how that can remove the guesswork to help you focus on the right accounts at the right time every week. Imagine starting a week knowing who you need to talk to, which of your customers you're going to reach out to this week. I think that would feel great. Kate, welcome back.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
So this is a really exciting one. I think as we dig into this customer health scoring thing, this is really a bit more into the why this matters and why knowing your scores can really be important. I thought we'd start with one of the common mistakes that we see companies make when it comes to tracking engagement, tracking customer health scores, and how they use that stuff. Can you start us off with, what are you seeing as somewhere that companies might go a bit wrong?
I think probably the main thing is joining the parts together. So you are kind of tracking. You've got some sort of measure of how your customers are going, and it may or may be sophisticated, but you actually don't have the acting connected with it. So, for example, you might have customers that get missed. They should be prioritised, but they're not. You've kind of got low outreach. But if you don't have your process and you don't have your reports joining together with the action, you miss stuff.
Yeah, so I think to drill down into that, right? It's looking for upgrades that should be happening, but maybe you're missing the opportunity to do that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise by churn, I think, is a big thing, right? That's something that we keep hearing about, is that you're reacting to churn instead of getting in front of it. And then what you're talking about, like building these lists of customers, it's so that you can actually go out and talk to the right ones, and not. It's not. I don't think you're ever wasting your time talking to customers, but
No.
if you only have so many hours in a day or a week, you want to be talking to the ones that you can actually influence. And if someone's happy, let them be happy, I suppose, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
uh, so that's one of the things that we've seen companies kind of, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but maybe just not implement, right? Like you have all this data, you can get these health scores, but if you're not using them to action it, what good is it doing you really? So how does someone fix that? Let's say you've got customer health scores, you've got engagement metrics, you've got something like that to give you an indication as to how healthy your accounts are. What do they then do with that data?
Well, I think you can make it as sophisticated as you like, but a good starting point is pretty basic. One is you've got the ones that are your expansion opportunities. They've got the high scores. They're engaged. They're growing. They're using your key features. So you've got that bucket, and you're clear on who they are. Then your next bucket is you've got ones that you think need a bit of attention. So they're doing okay. Probably got like a medium score. There's moderate usage. There's some drop off, but they need some proactive help, and that's another bucket. And to me, of course, you've got your at risk, your low score ones. And, to me, they're not logging in very frequently. The onboarding stalled if you're watching for that. They may have a bit of negative feedback, or they're a bit silent. And for me, they're the ones you need to really intervene ASAP, and hopefully they're not a lost cause. So really 3 buckets, high, medium, low. It's that. It's not exactly rocket science.
So I guess it's kind of segmenting the customers that you have, and then that leads us into the next thing that we wanted to talk about here is what to do about it and what the process looks like. So how do you turn that knowledge that you have into action? And I think the first place that we usually start is actually defining what makes a customer quote unquote healthy. And I think you can break that down by company, product, team. So there's a lot of ways of doing that. What are some of the ways that people can think about what maybe defining what customer health really looks like for them?
Well, if you're going to do it manually, it's probably things like engagement frequency, such as are they logging in frequently, your feature adoption, are they using your key tools, your core key features, Are they adding users? Are they increasing their spend? And maybe some support trends, which is more the qualitative, which is a bit rougher.
Mhm.
So that's what you can do, your manual. And then, of course, you do have, like a coil that does have that automatic scoring. So you can do it manually or you can put a system into place, which is up to you.
Yep. So you've defined what healthy means to you. It could again be dependent on your role. Could be dependent
Yep,
on where they are in your funnel, and
yep.
what makes a healthy customer right now, and how can we influence them to take the next step. And speaking of step two then is, as part of a process, is to, or we think anyway, is automate a lot of that, surfacing those accounts, right? So automating alerts. How do you automatically prioritize your accounts so that you're starting a week or a month with the right accounts on your to-do list? Um, and we keep talking about like the top 5 customers. It could be 100, it could be 20, really up
Yep,
to you and what your capacity
yep.
is. Um, Walk us through automating these alerts, and how do you think about prioritizing who you're going to reach out to?
Well, if you've defined your what's healthy, you then actually group. So what we talked about before is grouping people into the companies, into their accounts, into their segments. And then from there, it's deciding what you're actually going to do and act on. So you agree on when you get a certain signal, you're actually going to do a certain action. So, for example, it might be your sales team or your salesperson, they get notified when an account's primed for an upsell, for example.
Hmm.
Similarly, if you've got an at-risk account and that gets pinged and goes to the nominated person whose job is to be proactive and do proactive engagement, usually a customer success team or customer success person, but could be the support person to do proactive reach out. So for me, it's you get your signal and then you actually decide on your actions. So they're pre-worked out, just like your health scores. Everything is your process is set up to do that.
Yeah, cool. And then that's really leads us into the last step of the process here, which is, yeah, defining that targeted action, right? So if
Yeah.
they're expansion accounts, it's, are you reaching out to them with upsell recommendations, maybe even cross sell recommendations? I've been reading a book called The 7 Pillars of Customer Success recently by Wayne McCulloch, I think. And he calls this uptelling. So instead of trying to constantly sell to your customers, you're informing them of ways that they can get more value. And I really, that resonated
I
with
like
me.
that. Yeah.
Um, so reach out to uptell them, here's some opportunities to get more from the product, that sort of thing, and almost let them sell themselves on the additional value that they get. Um, we talked about like that's expansion type stuff. Retention is another one. You want to fight churn the best way that you can. Um, so targeted actions there is going to be really specific to product and the team, right? I think it's kind of hard to prescribe anything right now, but it's really looking at how you can keep your customers longer and keep them happy. And then there's those at-risk accounts. Um, what happens when you start doing this, right? When you get this dialed in, take us through what this actually looks like in a company. I know you and I have worked on this sort of thing in the past, and we've seen
Yep.
what proactive responses to churn can look like and do for the company. But just um, maybe share some war stories. How do you think about this? What happens when you get this really right?
Well, I think at the big picture, you have fewer wasted hours. You've got
Mm,
people who are more focused. They know what they've got to do. There's usually more upgrades and stronger retention. Usually, you have your sales outreach process is stronger, sharper. They stop guessing and they start closing their deals more effectively. And I think you hopefully impact your churn rates.
mm,
And that's really just through proper churn management, really being proactive.
yeah,
So you prevent churn before it happens. So it's
yeah,
pretty. You can really see your results. People usually
mm,
work harder, better, and you usually start to see the results. The dial starts to shift.
yeah. And I think, like, if I were to sum it up, it would be really across the board, going from reacting to things to being proactive about things. And I think that's a huge shift. Um, and I know we've seen that happen in companies before, where taking that proactive stance, you all of a sudden you get ahead of things, and you actually just almost personally and like emotionally, you just feel a lot more secure. I think that's been my experience.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about how to actually use these customer health scores. Last week, we defined what a customer health score is. And if you haven't checked out that video, please go have a look at it. We'll link to that in the description below to define customer health and how you can do that too. And this week, it was all about process. What do you do with that information? So, call to action for you today is ask yourself, ask some teammates, can you name our top 5 customers that are most likely to upgrade this week? If you can't, come check us out at acoil.com. We're happy to help you out and answer those questions for you. Anything to send us out with, Kate?
I'm just going to say more sales to you, people.
See you next time.